Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I've got 3 stories for you in this very latest and exciting Moon Lambo Hot Jam. Did you know that you can pay for your bills using XRP and other major cryptocurrencies in a city in the United States? Actually, this is the 3rd one to take this up now. It's fascinating, especially considering what's been going on lately with the prices of XRP and other cryptocurrencies tumbling. Some are asking, is the investment thesis off for Bitcoin and XRP and crypto in general? Take a look at this headline from the Daily Huddle. What's next for Bitcoin? CNBC's Brian Kelly analyzes investment thesis after crypto crash. And then you've got everyone's favorite, Paul Krugman. Every time I look at him, inside I go, wow, wow. Nothing against him on a personal level. I'm sure he's a perfectly intelligent guy. I just think he's bad at analyzing almost everything. Like, really. So here's a headline from you today. Crypto is long-running Ponzi scheme, writes Nobel laureate Paul Krugman. No, it is not. It doesn't even fit the definition, so I will tear that idea to shreds. So much to talk about. But before we go further, I do want to be clear that I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who makes hot jams all up on the internet about Ripple and XRP and crypto and Paul Krugman. This is primarily, as you know, this is primarily a Paul Krugman channel. I just talk about Paul Krugman and all the fantastic stuff that he has to say. That's mostly what's on this channel. Now, a shout out to James Rule XRP, my fellow XRP YouTuber, for sending this my way. Take a look at this. I just think this is cool, so I wanted to highlight it. The city of Williston is pleased to announce that it now accepts digital cryptocurrency payments for utility bills. We have partnered with BitPay, the largest virtual payment merchant, whose partners include Microsoft and Facebook, explained Finance Director Hercules Cummings. We are the first municipality in the state of Dakota and the 3rd in the nation to offer this service. Oh, wow, I'm pretty impressed by that. And you know what? There's actually a benefit to this over paying by traditional means. And mind you, so there is a middleman in this case. Williston, the city of Williston, North Dakota here, they're not actually accepting XRP themselves. You can pay with XRP, but this is going through a middleman called BitPay, and they do charge you a 1%, but through traditional means like credit cards, they cited here on this page anyway that for them anyway, it's 3%. So there is actually a benefit there, but. It will be neater when finally you have a future where other currencies, cryptocurrencies specifically, are accepted. That's what we're actually shooting for. In the meantime, at least people are functionally able to pay utilizing the XRP or Bitcoin if they so choose, even if that's not what's ultimately being received, because you wouldn't need the middleman if they would just take it, damn it. But I understand, especially with how volatile these assets are, it's not within the wheelhouse of what a city like this would do and taking on that sort of risk exposure. I get it. So BitPay, they're the middleman, they take on all that for a small fee. But still, it is adoption of cryptocurrency and XRP, and it's just nice seeing right here. Here's the screen grab that James Rule XRP shared, and there, in all its glory, you can pay with XRP. And you gotta wonder too, can you do that with other securities? Because obviously XRP is a security. I mean, the SEC's claiming that anyway, right? So it must be a security. I want to know, can you do this with other securities? Can you do this with your Amazon or Apple stock? That's what I want to know. If the answer is yes, I mean, yeah, it's just really even additional defense for the SEC here. Of course, XRP is not a security. Damn it. All right, so as I record this, XRP is down to 91 cents, Bitcoin at $36,403, market cap for the asset class down to 1.5 trillion. So clearly the sky's falling, right? It's all over. It's been a fun 12 years with this crypto experiment, but pack up your things. It's time to go home, right? No, definitely not. But what is going on here? Well, let's dig into this piece from the Daily Huddle, because is there something wrong with our investment thesis? Where's the discussion here? CNBC contributor Brian Kelly is assessing Bitcoin's value after its recent drastic sell-off. Ultimately, says Kelly in a new CNBC interview, the reasons to invest in Bitcoin remain intact despite this week's dramatic price plunge. So I'm going to pause already right there. That is a completely legitimate point. Think about this. So when I jumped into crypto, I was aware immediately, and I'm talking November 2017 when I first invested in crypto. I was aware of just how volatile crypto was leading up to that point. The dramatic price swings, that data, I had certainly good bits of that in my mind. I was aware of it, and so jumping in, I didn't think that was going to stop. Now, whatever I believed in cryptocurrency at the point, whatever I believe in now, none of that, like nothing that would make me believe whatever I believed back then or now would have changed as a result of a continuation of the human behavior that results in this tremendous volatility. That has nothing to do with underlying fundamentals, clearly, right? Nothing to do with it whatsoever. And then really a separate conversation, not that I want to go too far down this track, but we'll mention it. The market today has very little to do with fundamentals in general. So really what I mean is whatever reasons are in place that make me or you think that crypto is going to go up, if we were right or wrong, this is not an indication of whether we're not right or wrong. The fact that we've seen a major pullback, one of the biggest in the history of the entire asset class, and there have been other ones bigger, of course, but I'm just saying it's one of the biggest ones. The fact that we just witnessed it, wouldn't it have been weird? Serious question. Wouldn't it be more weird if we never saw one of these ever again? Wouldn't that be more weird than the fact that it happened? Of course. That would be substantially more strange, right? So whatever has caused us, we here in the crypto space, to believe that this is going to go up, this does not change that. And then so that's why the supplemental piece to this, which I don't want to go too far down the route in this video because I've talked about it pretty extensively lately, and then it'll just make this video too long anyway. It's just this idea that fundamentals, yes, I believe they matter. You may believe that they matter, especially in the case of XRP functionally being used in enterprise-grade software. I think that matters. The market hasn't figured stuff out, but that really is primarily because the asset class is in its nascency. There's over 8,000 cryptocurrencies. It's going to take humans a long time to figure out which cryptocurrencies deserve to have staying powers. So this is not surprising to me. Anyway, the piece continues. He calls Bitcoin tumbling from around $45,000 to slightly above $30,000 in a matter of hours a mechanical sell-off. Kelly remains bullish on Bitcoin's overall trajectory and says he's a buyer. And here's a quote. On days like today, I always ask myself, has my thesis broken? And for me, what's driving this Bitcoin market is institutional adoption and a hedge against currency debasement. And so, look, I do think that there's an argument that, to this point, institutional money pouring in, it at least got the ball rolling as far as if that's what's continued to this point, well, before the crash anyway, money to continue to pour in. Yeah, maybe that's the case. Either way, at some point, this was just going to keep going up anyway because it's not as... Like, here's the thing. People have figured out that there's something to this crypto thing because things can happen with crypto that are technologically impossible without it. Business models can exist that technologically, functionally cannot exist unless you have a cryptocurrency that is decentralized and has an open market price. That's certainly true. And so it's just the case right now that humans are like, well, yeah, of course there's value to that, but we don't know for sure which cryptocurrencies are going to ultimately have staying power here. And so really, in terms of an investment thesis, ask 1,000 different people why they're in crypto, you get 1,000 different answers. So there'd be some overlap, no doubt. But suffice it to say, humans have pretty well decided that there's something to this. And so even if you get a range of answers, and some perhaps more valid than others, like there are valid answers in there. And so for me, just knowing that's still the case, that's enough for me to have as close to 100% confidence as possible that this is going to keep moving to the upside, even if you have tremendous pullbacks like we just saw, even if you have multi-year bear markets, which I don't think we're in right now. I still think we're in a bull market. Even so, like like that functionally is not going to change. That's not going to stop here. And people will increasingly figure out specific use cases for cryptos, and I do think money's going to flow into them. But yeah, I can understand why somebody would take pause when this goes down. Like, okay, has something fundamentally changed? I don't do that. You know, I mean, I'd have to think back to did my brain do that in the past when I was really early in crypto. I don't know. Maybe it could have. I don't know. I can't recall off the top of my head specifically me thinking that, but I could see why people would. But to me, like for me, certainly now, like that's definitely not where my brain's gonna go in instances like this. I'm just gonna think, oh yeah, okay, well, it's another pullback. Most pullbacks do not lead to the beginning of bear markets, but Every 4 years so far to this point, one does. And next time we get one of those, I mean, fine. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to stop crypto, though. And so, that leads me to Paul Krugman. And my gosh, I want to highlight this before I even get into the piece. Something that he stated, and maybe I'm just going to bring it up every time I cover anything he says in one of my videos, because I just want you to know the degree to which this guy, maybe not the best guy to ask about how the future is going to unfold. And here's a quote from Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning economist, 1998. This is an actual quote from him. It's on your screen right now. By 2005 or so, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, Paul Krugman, you know what? You gave it the old college try. Bully for you. That didn't pan out well, did it? My gosh, the internet has just been globally transformative from an economic perspective. Globally transformative, and it has lifted up some of the poorest people on the planet. Things keep getting better in a general sense from that perspective. If you don't believe that's true, actually, that would be a whole different conversation, but it has plenty of data to indicate that actually is. But, and I do mean globally. But to suffice it to say, no bigger an economic impact than the fax machine. That's how we're going to get out of the internet. Okay. Well, he's got similar skepticism for cryptocurrency, and he's been wrong about it for at least 8 years. He's been talking about it since at least 2013, and he just keeps writing things that are proven to be more and more incorrect as time passes. And he just doubles and triples, quadruples down on his silly ideas, so on and so forth. And so the headline here from you today, crypto is long-running Ponzi scheme, writes Nobel laureate Paul Krugman. And they highlight some pieces from his brand new column in the New York Times titled Techno Babble, Libertarian Derp, and Bitcoin. Okay, great title. And so check this out. The Nobel laureate argues that Ponzi's can survive for that long. Think about it, in terms of Bitcoin, it's been around for about 12 years now. So he says they can survive that long, and mentions Bernie Madoff's infamous investment scam as an example. And here's a quote. But could a Ponzi scheme really go on for this long? Actually, yes. Bernie Madoff ran his scam for almost 2 decades and might have gone even longer if the financial crisis hadn't intervened. Well, certainly it's true that that scam did go on for decades. Yes, it fits the perfect textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme. And it's also true that it likely would have gone on much, much longer if not for the financial crisis, because that resulted in people wanting their funds from Bernie Madoff. But, Ponzi schemes go, there's when you start spending money that you've taken from investors on yourself, and then you count on new investors to cover these new expenses, when everybody comes crying for their money back, you don't have enough to give back to those people that you have stolen from. So yes, it's certainly arguable that the financial crisis absolutely is what resulted in this all getting uncovered. But here's the thing. Bernie Madoff was a central organizer of this and was actually lying to people and scamming them. Bitcoin, nothing like that. It's open code. The Bitcoin blockchain, it's open source code. And there's an asset called Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, which you can purchase. You can purchase an asset. And it's not like there's some sort of central entity pushing something up and then taking people's money and then running out there. That is not how it's going, because if you're going to state that Bitcoin itself fits the definition of a Ponzi scheme, then you better say that that's the same thing for gold. You better say it's the same thing about the stock market, because that doesn't make any damn sense. There's not a central authority. And I swear, if you try and argue that Bitcoin miners are the central authority, I'm just going to be like, okay, because, my gosh. I mean, if you think about it, especially in the early days, there weren't even big miners in the early days. There's just like a bunch of people all over the world that were mining Bitcoin on like their home desktop computers and stuff like that. And yeah, so things grew beyond that, but there wasn't some sort of central author of all of this, you know, in terms of like, when I say author, I'm not talking about the writing of the code, but just some sort of constructor, somebody that's at the center running all of this, there most certainly is not. That's functionally different than what you're talking about with a Ponzi scheme like Bernie Madoff. It simply does not meet the definition. And my gosh, the fact that went on, that actual scheme, which he was covering up for decades, went on, like, that's not even close to what's happening with Bitcoin specifically. And so to equate the two, it seems disingenuous to me. Ponzi schemes can go on for a long time, but just because something has been sold for 12 years and you don't get it, it doesn't make it a Ponzi scheme. And it just does not, it simply does not fit the definition, because there's nobody at the center pushing it. Like, there absolutely is not. And drawing in more money and to using that to cover the losses. There's none of these things that make a Ponzi the textbook definition of a Ponzi. Those things simply do not exist. And so then you get stuff like this too. In order to cover that up, and he highlighted it in here. Maybe I could find it. Natural. I call it a natural Ponzi. There we go. There you go. You're talking about Bitcoin, right? This may sound like a speculative bubble or maybe a Ponzi scheme, and speculative bubbles are, in effect, natural Ponzi schemes. There you go. And so what you're doing is you have an idea that it has nothing in common with a Ponzi scheme, but you want it to sound like a Ponzi scheme, so you add a qualifier, a qualifying term, in this case the word natural, and then you attach that qualifying word to a word that sounds very negative. So you attach the word natural to Ponzi scheme, and there you go. There you go. The whole crypto thing, it's just a natural Ponzi scheme. Do you see how they do that there? Isn't that creative? They want it to sound bad, and they're driving a narrative. It's complete bias, but it's not in line with reality. The idea behind what you're saying is a natural Ponzi scheme, has nothing to do with an actual Ponzi scheme. It's just completely disingenuous here. And so then, and he said some interesting stuff here. And there's a reason I wanted to talk about. Well, first of all, it's just interesting anyway. But he simply doesn't get this. He keeps saying that all this crypto stuff, it's techno-babble, which just makes him sound old-timey. But he keeps going on about how there's nothing useful to crypto. There are a number of spots in here. I mean, I didn't have one perfectly queued up because it probably doesn't matter. I mean, I could go through and read parts of this here. But he goes on to cite how these cryptocurrencies, it doesn't make sense that people are buying into them because they don't do anything, There's no utility. And look, the utility, it's okay to bring up whether or not a cryptocurrency is functionally useful, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. XRP is functionally useful as a bridge currency. Again, that's just one use case, but even one use case on the entire planet validates the entire asset class. Even just one doesn't mean that all 8,000 plus cryptocurrencies should be here, but if there's just one use case, that is enough for, because that's value, right? And so if there's value, humans are going to continue recognizing that. And if that value is also a result of an asset, and that asset is traded, then it deserves to have an open market price traded in perpetuity, right? That makes perfect sense. He's not aware of this though. He's aware of Bitcoin. He also conflates these ideas, like he was somewhere in here. He thinks that all cryptos are blockchain and all blockchain is crypto. He was conflating that, and actually, not even all cryptocurrencies use blockchain technology. I don't even think he didn't know that either. There are a number of cryptocurrencies that do have utility, do solve real world problems. There's just not that many of them. But he's absolutely just sticking his head in the sand here. It's just silly because, you think at some point enough time passes that you're just like, it's still here. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. You're like, what do I not get? And then at the end, he wrote, he did figure this, he did write this though, because he had been predicting for a long time that this would all go to zero. But then he wrote, here you go. He was talking about, he did acknowledge here, one or two cryptocurrencies. He writes, it's conceivable that one or two cryptocurrencies will somehow achieve longevity, and he says specifically longevity similar to what we've seen with gold. And so basically, he in bitching about Bitcoin and crypto, he ended up citing that the fact that gold has value doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense as a means of payment. And look, it's got downsides. I mean, a bar of gold is not easy to transport. It's if you want to make a fractional payment, shave some of that gold off. Of course, there's shortcomings there. And so for that reason, he's saying it doesn't necessarily make sense. And for the same reasons that don't make sense, You could have some cryptocurrencies that actually have long-term viability. So he finally recognized that. But he's still insisting that even if that happens, that he understands it doesn't make sense, but you're too stupid to know that, and that's why you're adopting it, right? That's why I'm adopting. Well, that's why we don't know any better. We don't. So here's what he's missing though, like humans. If you think about like what is money, if you're talking about money specifically, you could really say this about pretty much any. Well, let's just stick with money for the moment. Like money, you can define it a lot of ways. But what about simply a trust system, right? And so if you're going to have any asset, you can say about it. If you're going to have an open market price associated with an asset that has value, and I do differentiate between the two terms. Like value is something that means like there's usefulness to an asset, and then price is just the open market price. Well, if there's a open market price for gold and it's in perpetuity, like obviously gold's been around forever, this is an indication that there is trust there. So humans have already demonstrated that whether you're talking about fiat currency or talking about gold, humans will rally around things for which it makes sense to just have confidence and trust, right? And so humans are behaving like that with cryptocurrency, and for some reason, for the longest damn time, he's just been pretending like cryptocurrencies, it wouldn't persist. Now he's acknowledging that it might persist and then dragging down gold when he wasn't. I've never seen him anyway previously bitch about gold quite in this way. Maybe he has. But as if it doesn't make sense or shouldn't have some sort of value or open market price. Like it doesn't make, it's completely irrational here. So all this to say, when everything's said and done, like, the more time passes, the more people like Paul Krugman are just going to look ridiculous. Can you imagine people saying this another 10, 20, 30 years from now? It's all going to collapse. It's all going to go to zero. It's all still a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin's been around for 50 years, 100 years. XRP's been around for 100 years. It's all a Ponzi scheme. And the fact that some of these cryptos are being used, there's real world utility, doesn't even matter. It's still just a Ponzi. Well, that's the world that we live in right now, but I don't think this stuff is going away, not for one damn second. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.